When Sara Challice became a full-time carer for her late husband, Neal, she never considered that she would be the one that would need help.
But just like millions of others in the same position, the pressure of looking after a loved one ended up having a devastating impact on her physical and mental health.
Well, she encourages others to seek support if they need it. Sarah joins us now, and it's lovely to talk to you, Sarah.
Morning,
Thank you very
Sarah.
much indeed for talking to us today. Tell us about Neal. How did you meet? What sort of guy was he?
Well, Neal, met him within 3 days of coming to and working in London, and I thought this is where my life's going to start. And Neal was the print supplier to our design team. So I got to know Neal really well. He was 6'4", the size and stature of a rugby player, with a cheeky smile, very confident, and I always enjoyed his company. Anyway, as I carried on working there, he'd take us out for lunch, and a while later he asked me out, and we started dating and having a great time. But I would say within 6 weeks of us going out, I'd been having these kind of side effects of pins and needles down one side and funny headaches. And after that, he fell ill with a brain tumour in hospital, which was a shock to us all because he'd been so fit and well. So he had a long operation to remove most of it and 6 months of chemotherapy. And by the end of that, he was given the all clear, and we rejoiced in getting on with our lives. And then the following Christmas, he proposed to me, and we were looking forward to getting married. But only a month after that, he fell ill again with the brain tumour. And he said, "You know, Sarah, you don't have to marry me." And I said, "Stuff the cancer, Neal. We will make the most of what we have," because I loved him. We brought that wedding forward, and we saw it as a great celebration with our friends and family. But I would say within so as that carried on, Neal had 5 more years of chemotherapy, and by the end of that, I'd given up my career in the city to care for him full time. Neal was using a wheelchair, and a few years after that, he had a stroke, and he was in hospital for a few months, and the doctors just kept saying he is a do not resuscitate.
It's an amazing, when you look at this story, this heartbreaking story, dating for a few weeks, started to feel ill, suddenly rapidly downhill, very early on into a relationship. There are many people who may have bolted for the door.
Yeah, I mean, do you know, I think it's naivety at the time, but, you know, I got on well with Neal, and I just said to him, you know, get better, I'm here for you, not realising the impact that it would have on both of us over the next course of like 13 years. Because when Neal came home, he was then in a hospital bed in our living room, and he was hoisted in and out of bed, had a feeding tube, and was unable to speak. And as that carried on, my world became smaller as a carer. So I was, looking after him, suppressing my emotions, not seeing my friends and family as I would have liked to have done. And then I was starting to fall ill myself. I wasn't checking in on myself or my health. I was too busy focusing on Neal. And with that, I ended up...
Did you ask for help at that point? Did you sort of recognise that this wasn't something you could do on your own?
Yeah, I rang the local hospice, our nurse, and I said, "Jenny, I don't know what to do." I said, I've given up socialising. I'm too ill. I've been ill for months now. I can't go running anymore, and I've given up drinking, which was a tall order for me. And she said, "I've been expecting this call, Sarah," and I'd been caring for over 10 years at that time. And with that, they put Neal into a nursing home. So I then took myself off on a silent retreat, of all things, because I needed a complete break. And that's when I got clarity, as well as recharging my batteries. I could see the wood for the trees, having a break, and that's why it's so important for carers to have breaks. And then a few weeks later, when I got home, I was caring for Neal, but this time I was caring for myself. And actually, I started to enjoy life again, even whilst I was caring
so
for
anyone who is a carer now, and they will understand their role in looking after their loved one, And as you say, you completely lose sight of looking after yourself. I think you say that it's like having two buckets of sand around your neck. So you've got one for the other person and one for you. You said then you came back after that retreat and you started to look after yourself. So for carers watching now, how do you do that? How did you do that?
Okay, well, number one was check in with yourself. We don't ask ourselves how we are feeling. We're too busy being there for everybody else. So check in with yourself emotionally, mentally, physically. How are you doing? I was doing it with my neighbour, but you could do it over the phone or even jotting things down. And then you can start to realise what you might need to do. That was really important for me. Also, go easy on yourself if you're caring. You're doing an amazing thing. Not everybody can be a carer. So be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to do things for you. Take time every day for you. You're not just here for another one. You're here for yourself. So give yourself permission and have time out. And also vocalise. Be honest with loved ones around you. Often we don't. We suppress our emotions. We feel like we need to be this physical and emotional rock for everybody. You can't keep going like that.
When he died in your arms. It's a very sad part of your story, but inevitable. I think, so you were expecting it to happen. How did you feel after he died?
Neal had been suffering for a long time, particularly 4 years in that hospital bed. So when he did pass, I actually said thank you because I didn't want him suffering anymore. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to keep that caring. It was too much for both of us. And I'll be honest with you, I felt like I could sit down for that week. That's kind of how I felt. I sat down because when you're caring for somebody, you make yourself responsible for their life. And I think sometimes that's just too much. You're caring for somebody, but you're in a caring role, but you can't be all to everybody. It's also their journey. So all we can do is give our love and support, but we need to give ourselves that same love and compassion, and that's where I went wrong.
And Sarah, you've written all of this in your book, which is called Who Cares? How to Care for Yourself Whilst Caring for a Loved One. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's lovely to talk to you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.